The Herbst appliance is one of the craziest appliances we use in braces, and I got a story that I have from one of my patients that makes me never want to use it ever again. Let's get into it. First, we got to know what a Herbst appliance is. It's a way that we can just basically like screw something into your mouth to fix an overbite issue like this. You can actually flip them too and do underbites and stuff. But that being said, we use this especially in younger kids or for people who just absolutely won't wear their rubber bands. That's right, you could have just wore your rubber bands. But that being said, the Herbst appliance is now in. What is the big issue? What's the story? What happened? Well, I had a patient way back in residency, and we were putting in this Herbst appliance in, and at that time we were doing it on what we call a phase 1 treatment, meaning a kid. And if you didn't know, these aren't just glued on there, they're actually cemented with these metal bands. They're called metal bands. We put them in there, the spacers open up the space, we put these little metal bands on there and lock this instrument into their mouth. And normally this goes fine, except for when your patient likes to mess with the stuff in their mouth. This patient was terrible. It was always opening super big and the little rods were coming out, and he was like always picking at things and popping things off because he was like a 9 or 10-year-old. And then one day I get a call from the mom saying, hey, we got some issues here with the Herbst appliance. I think there's something wrong. We need you to check on it. And now for me, I'm in residency, so I got somebody who's, older overseeing me, who's been doing this for 20, 30 years, a long time. He knows what he's doing. So I'm like, oh, this will be fun. We get there and the patient opens his mouth and I look over at my doctor who's in there and he's looking at me. And he kind of turns wide a little bit like, oh my goodness, what am I looking at? And so I peer over his shoulder and I look in absolute shock at what I'm seeing. The band here is all the way down at the bottom of this person, and it's cut through all of the gums, and I can see the root of this kid's canine. It was crazy. And so apparently what this dude had done is he was like picking at it and pushing at it, and he had broken the cement around the band and made that band loose to where it was bouncing up and down. And if you guys don't know about Herbst, it puts a ton of pressure on everything downward, inward, to push and pull the jaws in different ways. So every time he was biting down, he was pushing this band and it was bouncing up and down on his tooth. And eventually he did it so much that band just kept cutting and going further and further and further until it was like 2/3 of the way down his root in his gum tissue and the bone and everything. It was insane. And by the time he got to us, that band was like embedded inside of his bone, like flapped over and everything. It literally scared the crap out of him. So from there, we basically had to unhook the entire Herbst, and then we had to find a way to basically lift up the band far enough. It like popped up over it, so we couldn't get it up over anymore because it was like bent up and like underneath on the root. So we actually had to cut the band in 3 places and pull the band out in different directions to get it free from the tooth. Now, luckily for this kid, the tissue in the mouth heals pretty quickly, and because we were moving teeth and stuff over time, we did check it. Mobility was okay. The tissue was okay, and everything else ended up healthy for this kid. But I think the moral of the story is just wear your rubber bands so you never have to have a crazy contraption like this in your mouth. And if we do put one in your mouth, please don't mess with it and just do what your doctor tells you to, or else you might just chop your tooth off. Hope that helps.